Now, Leonard Hill, as far as I know, is still alive. He was born March 18th, 1939. I have not seen any report of death from Leonard Hill. He was from Mountain View, California at the time. I don't know about presently. If he's still alive, he's 84 years old. So, I mean, that's not unreasonable. E4, C5, Sicilian defense, no surprise. Knight F3, D6, just like before. D4, pawn takes pawn, and knight takes pawn, exactly like the first game. Knight F6, knight C3, and sure enough, A6, exactly like the first game, including Opacensky's variation with bishop E2. Remember, A6 is the key move for Miguel Najdorf's variation, which certainly you know by now if you've watched this program at any length whatsoever. E5, identical to the first game so far, and this is where we deviate from the first game. In the first game, White played knight F3, knight B3 by Leonard Hill. Apparently knows his theory better than Bredoff. Bishop E7, both sides castle. This is the traditional line of Miguel Najdorf's variation. Bishop E3, Bishop E6 by Fischer, F3. Now, F3 leaves the book. The book move is Queen D2, and that's answered by Queen's Knight to D7, then A4, Rook to C8, then A5, Queen to C7, then the King's Rook to D1, and Black plays his King's Rook to D8. That is all in the ECO. Leonard Hill in this game played F3. After F3, Queen's Knight to D7 was played, and Queen to D2. And that gets an inaccuracy from the bot, but that is the most common move. The bot here calling for A4, which is an idea that we've shown in other lines. F4, I wonder, is playable here, I would suppose. I get a thumbs up. But Queen D2, frowned upon, but it is the most commonly played move at the master level. So, and again, we don't worry too much about these inaccuracies from the bot because the bot can't even agree with itself on these inaccuracies. Knight B6, following pretty much the same theme that he did in the game against Bredoff. B5 should be considered here. It's thematic to this opening. You play B5, you play B4. But Knight B6 is what Bobby chose. King's Rook to D1 was played here, and Queen C7 gets out of the line of that battery's fire. Now here A4 surely would be the move, but Leonard Hill with Queen to E1. Yes, Queen E1 is marked as a mistake. A4 is the move that's called for. Very thematic is A4. Queen E1 was the move by Leonard Hill, and D5 by Bobby Fischer. Pawn takes pawn, and King's Knight takes the pawn. Knight takes the knight, knight takes the knight, and now this bishop, under fire, moves to F2. That looks like a free pawn, feels like a free pawn. Bobby takes it, gets an inaccuracy. Well, I liked this move because it removes the C-man and threatens bishop to B4, which can no longer be interposed by the no longer present C-pawn. Here, Leonard Hill played Queen D2, the bot calling for bishop to F1. A really strange-looking move is bishop F1. Perhaps Rook D2 would be worth a try. Hit the queen. I get a check mark for this move. Force the queen to retreat, and then bring your other rook in and make the queen move again. Unless I retreat to G6. Yeah. Good point. Okay. Anyway, Queen D2 was played, and Bobby doubles up with Queen's Rook to C8. Queen's Rook to C1, and now Queen takes the Queen. Rook takes the Queen. Oh my. You've got to take that with the Knight, right? Because now that allows a skewure. Note this piece relationship, ladles and jelly spoons, and bishop G5 gives black a decisive advantage. Well, the eval bar isn't quite in the decisive range, but it feels decisive to me. Rook took the rook, rook took the rook, and rook d1. Now Bobby played rook c2, and Leonard gave it up. He resigned here. Well, maybe a somewhat premature resignation. I mean, even though I just said it was decisive for black, he's still in a back rank weakness. There's still a few cracks in the window that you might be able to squeeze through. So, for example, you could counterattack with pawn to h4 and trade bishops. You'd have to give up this pawn for a bishop. But, you know, if you play here, double exclam. Double exclam by Coach Daniel. He takes and then I take. But at least you're still fighting if you're white. It's not the end of the world. You're down 2 pawns is the problem. But he resigned. What else could white try, guys? It might be his best shot. And really, you're hoping for something like a retreat here, but obviously we're going to take. And go up 2 pawns. Hit this pawn, perhaps? No, it doesn't work because that gives up that one. No, you'd have to give up your, you have to allow the rook trade. Action Jackson wants white to try bishop f1 here. You mean right instead of h4? Bishop f1? Yeah, I'm sure I can force simplification here with knight e3. Basatai says knight d4. Knight d4 is hot, bro. Knight d4 is a hot square. Don't think that would work. Bishop f1. Let's look at bishop f1. I was starting to think, yeah, I could simplify here. And you dare not take because I'm taking with tempo. So you'd have to move your rook somewhere. Maybe rook e1. Doesn't matter because I'm taking the bishop anyway, right? And then that's another pawn in my pocket. So probably not. Probably doesn't work, Action Jackson. I think this h4 is your best try. And then you'd have to rook d2. You can't let me have another pawn. And of course I will simplify because 2 pawns is significant. But he still has some material here to work with. And I think this is his best chance to hold, he being white, his best chance to hold this down. You got opposite colored bishops, you know, maybe you can make a blockade, get rid of the knights and make a blockade. It'd be hard. So there you go. U.S. Junior Championship, 8 wins, 1 draw, 0 losses by Bobby Fischer.